We want to hear from you this morning about this story. Prince Harry, just 45 minutes with his father, travelled through the night from the other side of the world, hasn't seen his dad in a really long time. His father's unwell, and he is seen driving into Current's house, and 45 minutes later his father leaves. Now, everything is thought through in the royal household. They think about optics all the time. To me, as a parent, or even as a child, I would think, as soon as the son's arrived, he can't get away fast enough. It just feels like there's still tension there. What do you think? Would you leave as soon as your son arrived in those circumstances?
Hello, Harry. Come in from LA. Right, very good. Is anything important, anything I can do for you? Where are my car keys? Who's got my bag?
Where's my pen?
Out the door. Boom. Away they go. It does sound very brief and very impersonal, the whole thing, but there we go. What do you make of this? Prince Harry, that's the King's helicopter there you're seeing taking off for Sandringham. And so what actually went on? That is the
what
question.
We're getting to the bottom of.
So the pair are believed to have spoken, as we say. Harry arrives at 2:45. The King leaves in his car 3:38 and heads to Sandringham.
Well, it's unknown how long Prince Harry is going to stay in the UK or if he will indeed see the King again. And according to royal sources, he has absolutely no plans to meet with his estranged brother.
Joining us now in studio, we're delighted to say good morning to royal correspondent Richard Fitzwilliams. Good to see you, Richard. You'll end up talking to us longer than Charles and Harry seem to have spoken yesterday. We were quite taken aback by the brevity of the meeting. Are you?
I think to some extent. I mean, I think there are two sides here. It's a very, very sensitive time, as we all know. And Prince Harry is aware of the cancer diagnosis, which has not been shared with us in detail. There's, on the one hand, there are those who would say this is a loving son making a gesture, and whether you want to read reconciliation into that at the moment is one thing, but on the other hand, that he came immediately, he's been seen, King Charles had begun treatment and was very tired, and that was the reason for the brevity of it. There are the others who will look at what happened and say that the optics are particularly bad because the royal family will not have forgotten the fact that Prince Philip, when Harry and Meghan did their extremely damaging Oprah interview, this was like some form of nuclear bomb aimed at the palace, was in fact in hospital, and as we know, very sadly, this was proved his final illness. And also, the way the Sussexes have attacked the royal family ceaselessly and for monetary gain since has been very, very damaging. So this is a hypersensitive moment. I mean, my own feeling is that the only thing that makes sense when there is a diagnosis of a life-threatening illness, which millions know that cancer is, though we are heartened by the Prime Minister's comment with reference to the fact that they caught this early. Well, thank heavens for that. But the problem is, obviously, if you've got stresses and strains in the family, if they are the world's most high-profile monarchy, and if they therefore get into the papers and are constantly discussed, I mean, this then exacerbates matters. So the only thing that makes sense at the moment is some form of cohesion. And I think Harry was very wise to come alone for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, is it normal for meetings of this sort between, immediate family and the royal family to be quite short? I mean, it's very possible that this is completely ordinary to the royals. It's just the fact that he left so swiftly after his son arrived. You'd have thought somebody might have thought, oh, let's give it another hour and a half before we helicopter off to Sandringham. I mean, is that a normal length of a meeting?
It's impossible to say what a normal length of a meeting is at this particular juncture, because, as I say, it is very possible that the King could be extremely tired. If one looks at the photographs, I mean, it's obviously a brave decision to be photographed, but you can see, or I certainly read into them, that the King does look, shall we say, extremely weary. There is no doubt that a meeting has taken place. Now, let's hope that something can be built on that, not just looking as to the way the Sussexes behaved in the past, to the fact that we know there's a very deep rift, and the fact he isn't seeing William. Well, we have to bear in mind, of course, William has an investiture he's conducting today at Windsor, and then tomorrow there's the ambulance ball.
Tonight.
The gala.
Yeah, the gala's tonight, the same day.
In London. Well, I mean, it's very tough for him because Catherine, as we know, is recuperating after abdominal surgery. And I mean, that will continue, we are told, until after Easter. Now, with all of this, it's a very difficult time and perhaps unsurprising that the brothers aren't meeting. On the other hand, have they been in touch? We're told not for a very long time. Will they be? It's part of the process of reconciliation, if there is to be this, which is the only thing, as I say, that makes any sense at a time like this, that they do meet, but under what circumstances? I mean, William doesn't trust Harry for obvious reasons, because he's afraid that anything he says might perhaps
be reported elsewhere. I'm fascinated to know whether the Queen was at the meeting between Harry and his dad.
I'm guessing not.
I'm guessing not as well. But because he has been really mauling of her and her reputation, so it would take a lot, I suppose, to have a certain amount of rapprochement going on there.
I think that was the red line when Harry attacked Camilla. The Queen was basically, well, he said that she'd, for the sake of PR, he would be sacrificed. That is apparently what he believes. I mean, there's no doubt the rehabilitation of Camilla, as it was known over 20 years ago, was pretty ruthless. Mark Boland, who conducted it, was a tough PR. But having said that, I mean, it was a very, very unwise thing to say. And as we know, after Spare was published, Frogmore Cottage was not available.
Well, that's an interesting point. He is effectively homeless in the UK. Lots of speculation about where he spent last night. Princess Beatrice also visited the King yesterday morning, and we know from the documentary, the Netflix documentary, that he is close with his cousins. He could possibly have stayed with other royal relatives, or there's suggestions possibly in a luxury London hotel. But that in itself will presumably add to his feelings of, being rejected. Yeah, isolation.
Oh, he has feelings of rejection, but of course he's undergoing therapy, and there's no question that he wishes wants an apology from the royal family. The gripes have been worldwide, and they've done a lot of damage. I mean, the Sussexes are responsible, or largely responsible, for the way the royals, but with the 18 to 24-year-old group, most of them now are in favour of a republic in some of the recent polls.
Look, end of the day, there was no reason on God's earth that Charles had to be in Sandringham by a certain time yesterday, unless darkness with the flight had something to do with it. It could well have done. Flying in the dark in a helicopter is not to be recommended.
Well, stay another night in Clarence House then.
Could be, yeah. You could do that, but it seems to be, to give, and the newspapers vary between did they meet for 30 minutes or 45 minutes? Either way, it isn't a long period of time. And why couldn't they have just said, just hold the copter for another half hour or whatever?
Absolutely.
Quite strange, since the lad came the whole way from Los Angeles. It shows how serious all this is. Richard, thanks for your take on things. We really appreciate your insight. Thank you very much indeed, Richard Fitzwilliams there, Royal Commentator.